Hello. Today we are going to be answering some questions about sizing. We have a lot of options here at Nix, a lot of sizes, a lot of lasts, so it can get a little overwhelming sometimes. So I'm going to go through a number of customer service questions straight from our customer service email, and I will be answering them to hopefully help you with some questions you may have in the future. So the first question we have says, I'm currently wearing an MTO ready-to-ship boot, a Thurman 55 last, 10.5 length, D width. I have slight heel slip in both boots, more noticeable in the right boot. At first they fit snug without the slight slip, but as they are breaking in, I have started to experience the heel slip. Also, if I kick something, it feels like my foot slips forward. My Brannock size is an 11D. My question is, should I be wearing a 10 in length? The D width feels like the correct size. So, sounds like they're in the right size. Brannock 11, 10.5 should work great. A little bit of heel slip is totally normal. Your heel should lift a slight amount within that heel pocket, as we call it. If your foot is sliding around, honestly, this sounds like my first question would be like, make sure you're lacing up nice and snug. The way you lace your boots can actually solve a lot of issues and be the cause of a lot of issues. So if you're ever wearing your boots and they feel a little off, just take some time, have a seat, kick your heel back, unlace the boots, and then relace them, making sure everything's nice and snug. And that typically can really help. So that would be my suggestion there, is check lacing first. Everything else sounds like it's the right size. 10.5D should work for you. So the next question says, I'm a size 12D in Red Wing, Logger Max, and Iron Ranger. I have been for years without issue. So it sounds like they've got their size pretty dialed in other brands. Should be pretty easy to figure out sizing from there. They say they've been measuring their feet and following Reddit posts since placing their order, measuring with a tape and following the recommendation to size down half a size. It appears to be 11.5E in Nix. The sizing direction on your buying guide page states if you normally wear a size 12D, we recommend a size 11.5D in your Nix. I understand Nix run narrow, so is the recommendation to stay with D width advisable over the measurements I've taken. Okay, so I see kind of what they're pointing at here. So they normally wear a 12D. We say if you wear a 12D, you should wear 11.5D, but their width measurement is coming out to an 11E or 11.5E. So the normal half size down recommendation, typically say stick with that. When it comes to width, it can be a little bit trickier because you might wear a 12D in other brands, but another factor is the fact that other brands don't offer E widths typically. A lot of brands, especially like Red Wing, go D and then straight to double E. So width is one thing that I would always say, like, go ahead and check it and go with something close to that. If you're measuring out to an E width on the sizing guide, then it might be worth going a little bit wider. Though at the same time, width measurements really a lot of times come down to personal preference. Length is a little less negotiable than width. Width really comes down to how you like the boots to feel. The same foot measurements between 3 different people. I mean, you could go, someone could prefer the feel of a B width, someone could prefer the feel of a double E width. They could be measuring the same at around a D width. It really is about what you're using the boots for, how you want them to feel, and what kind of break-in tolerance you have. Way back, years ago, before we did size exchanges or even had an online website, we used to fit people really, really snug because the understanding was the boot will always break into your foot. You could wear a C width, it could be painfully tight, give it 6 months of constant wear, that leather is going to loosen up. Obviously, we don't want you to deal with pain and blisters and things like that with break-in, so we've kind of changed up sizing advice now. But with that in mind, it really comes down to how you like the boots to feel. If you want them a little bit more snug, to feel a little more secure around your foot, and you're bouncing between two different widths, I'd say go with the more narrow width. If this is a pair of boots that you're going to be wearing casually, you're not going to be having them on your feet 24/7, working on them, things like that, then you can go with a little bit wider. They'll be more comfortable off the rip, and you don't have to think about break-in. I myself, I'm wearing a 12E right now in my Travelers. I have everything from a 12C to a 12FF, and that is all based on preference. So my hiking boots, things like that, I go on the more narrow side. Boots that I will be wearing casually or like don't want to think about with break-in, I go closer to like an F, or even sometimes I've done a double F. Sometimes that's just what, what's on the shelf, I put it on, it feels good. But yeah, width is kind of negotiable. Really depends on how you want the boots to break in. I'd look at your measurement and kind of go from there. So for your boots, a 11.5D will probably work just fine. Might take a little bit more to break in, but it'll be nice and snug once they're broken in. Next question, I ordered a half size down for my typical boot size and same standard width. I just used the sizing guide and come up with exactly the same thing, 10.5, which means I should order a 10, and a foot measurement of 10 inches, which according to the chart is a D width. Perfect. I also figured out that I made an error on the order. I need a steel or comp toe, and I thought I was ordering when I specified this elastic toe. Okay, sounds like customer service will fix that for you. I'm not sure what to do here, as I think I ordered the correct size, but it's not even close to fitting. Interesting. So this is from someone who recently got their boots. So, we have a buy with confidence program. If you get the boots and they're not fitting, we will exchange them. No problem. We'll get you the right size. So big thing when you try the boots on, like this person, they just got them. They're probably walking around their home in them. Sounds like they need a different safety toe rather than this elastic toe like they ordered. But get your boots, put them on your feet, lace them up, walk around the house. Few key things to look for. They should be snug, but not painfully tight. I normally say kind of like a nice firm handshake. In terms of toe space, you should have roughly a thumb's width in front of your toe. Some heel slip is normal, as I mentioned before, but it shouldn't feel like you're pulling up out of that boot. Again, this is a moment where walk around the house a little bit. If something feels off, take the boots off completely, open up those laces, put them back on, relace them completely, see if that maybe has solved some of the issues, and then walk around a little bit again. Fit and feel are kind of two different things, and that's part of the reason why we have moved away from like taking direct measurements and translating that to a size for you, because you might line up exactly to a certain size on the chart, but maybe they don't feel good when you get them. Maybe they're tighter than you like or they're looser than you like. So that's why we have the buy with confidence program. Try them on, wear them around the house. If they feel a little snug, go a little wider. If they feel a little loose, we can go a little narrower. So hopefully customer service has got you sorted out here. But yeah, it looks like you're pretty on par. Everything's lining up to 10D based on what you're saying, but they just don't feel good. If I had a little more info in terms of like, how they weren't feeling good, too tight, too loose, I could maybe give a little more advice, but that's what I would recommend when you first get your boots. Try them on, wear them around. Any questions or concerns, you can absolutely reach out to us, but definitely maybe relace them a couple times and see if you can find the problem there. Next question. When I used the DIY sizing guide, I noticed that I was coming out to 10-inch length. However, when I use a Brannock, I'm coming out to an 11. I have read on Reddit and on your site that you will want to go down half size from your Brannock size, but that would put me at a 10.5. Do I follow the Brannock or your DIY guide? I would recommend, if you have access to a Brannock, use that for reference. If you're coming out to an 11 on the Brannock, I would recommend going with a 10.5. The sizing guide should be to scale and should be correct, and it's available for people who don't have access to a Brannock device. But printing things out can come out a little strange sometimes. So there could be an error in that. But typically, I would just recommend half size down from Brannock. I recommend when you do the Brannock, do it seated rather than standing. Don't put your full weight on the Brannock device because that causes your foot to kind of splay out. Whereas sitting seated in a relaxed position better, replicates how your foot is going to sit in a boot like ours that has, built support and heel lift to it. So yeah, I would recommend that. Sounds like 10.5 would probably work for you. Next question has to do with safety toes. It says, I have ordered from you before and wear 12EE. If I order a new pair of boots with a elastic or steel toe, should I order a wider or longer size? You shouldn't have to size up for safety toes. That's one of the reasons our safety toes can look a little large, a little bulbous on the toe, because our number one concern is making sure that it doesn't affect the size of the boot. So we kind of oversize the safety toes to make sure that it doesn't affect the toe space. So steel toe, composite toe should have no issue. You mentioned elastic toe. That will have no effect on the size at all. That is lasted over the boot between the pieces of the liner and the vamp leather. So that won't affect sizing at all. Sometimes safety toes, because we oversize it, can make the boots feel a little bit bigger. Even elastic toes. I've found there's this thing where if you can't push your thumb down and feel where your toe is, sometimes it makes it feel or look like there's more space in the toe, if that makes sense. Part of that is, the stacking of layers of a elastic toe or even a toe cap or a safety toe. From the outside, it'll make the boot look bigger because there's more layers stacked, but it should fit the same. Okay, next question. Bought some boots from y'all about 5 months ago. Everything feels great except for the heels of the boots are still giving me blisters every time I wear them. The soles of the feet are comfortable and are perfectly molded to my feet, but I can't figure out how to not get blisters on the heels. Anything I can try. So you shouldn't be getting blisters. When the boots are new, if you throw on a fresh pair of boots and go hike a couple miles, you might get some blisters. But in general, you should not be getting blisters with your boots. I think I've only ever gotten blisters with my boots once, and it was because I threw on a brand new pair of Wicket and Craig Falcons and walked to work that day. My car trouble, so I walked to work about a mile or two each way, and I got blisters. But in general, you should not be getting blisters. If your feet are starting to hurt, you're starting to get hot spots. With new boots, make sure to bring a backup pair to work or wherever you're going. That way, if they're starting to get uncomfortable, you can take them off, put something comfortable on, let your feet kind of relax a little bit, and then do it again. We used to recommend break-in process wearing them in longer and longer increments every day. So wear them for like an hour the first day, maybe a couple hours the next day, so on and so forth, until you can wear them comfortably the whole day. You don't need to go that extreme, but kind of keep that idea in mind of if you've got brand new boots, especially work boots, and you're wearing them on the job, bring something that you can slip on in case you're having issues. I would recommend for this person, make sure you're wearing boot socks. A good thick wool boot sock is going to solve a lot of issues in terms of discomfort, rub, things like that. Wool socks, everyone hears wool and thinks they're going to be hot. Wool socks actually are very breathable. They wick moisture, so your feet don't sweat as much. Much better than like a cotton sock. Anyone who does backpacking or hiking, you might have heard this before. Everyone recommends staying away from cotton because it absorbs moisture like crazy. wool is kind of the way to go. And there's different kinds of wool. So not all wool is like the hot, warm wool you think of. Darn Tough socks are great. It's what we would recommend. We sell them on our website. They have a lifetime warranty. Great boot cushion socks. So I would recommend trying that. Also try, again, relacing. They might not be laced enough, which is causing heel slip and blisters. So this next question says they ordered a C width because they have boots now that are a D, which fit decent, but they're a little loose sometimes, though proper socks fill it out. They're asking if our boots run wide. It's just in the toe area that the D is perfect, but towards the heel it's a little bit more loose. And they said, I believe that's normal, but I don't want to squish toe box. So this touches on a topic we hear a lot. A lot of people will say they have narrow heels compared to the front of their foot. That's pretty normal. You shouldn't have, a totally straight box, rectangular shaped foot. Your heels are going to be more narrow than the front of your foot. Again, some heel movement is normal. We kind of want that. We don't want you pressed up against the heel counter not moving, because that actually is going to cause blisters more than if you have a little bit of heel movement. You could go with a C width if you want them a little bit more snug. Again, this is kind of a question of what do you prefer. There's no right or wrong answer except for what feels better on your foot, which I know, that means it takes a little bit of guesswork or a little bit of experimenting, which again is why we have that Buy with Confidence program, which is why for new customers I always recommend buy a quick ship first. I know it doesn't have all the options, it doesn't have all the customization, but we have a very good range of options there that covers pretty much every application and need you might have. Buy a quick ship boot, get it, try it on. If it doesn't fit, exchange it for a different size, dial in your sizing. By the time you get that exchange boot, you will have a boot that fits quicker than if you ordered like an MTO boot and waited the whole time, not knowing your size. So that's part of why that quick ship program exists. For first-time customers, that's the best way to dial in your sizing. Next question, do I need to change my size if I get a Thurman last? You do not need to change your size, though, once again, fit and feel a little bit different. The Thurman last is going to have a little bit more space in the toe box, and it can also fit a little bit more snug in the instep and in the heel area. Similar to that previous question, that can be an answer for people who feel like they have a more narrow heel than the front of their foot, or they want a little bit more snug heel compared to the front of their foot. You can go a little bit more narrow with the Thurman. You'll have plenty of toe box space, but that heel will snug up a little bit. Final question we have says, the part that worries me with sizing is that when I use the NYX fitting ruler, is the width. The circumference of the widest part of my foot is around 9 7/8 inches on my left and 10 1/8 inches on my right. According to the table, I'd be a double E or F. A, which size would you recommend? And B, should I be worried that the width is way off between my NYX table and my Brannock device measurement? So, right around 10 inches, 9 7/8, 10 1/8. Typically, everyone should have different left and right measurements. Totally normal, nobody's symmetrical. I always recommend kind of finding that happy medium, or going with the smaller size of the two. Because again, a snug boot will always break in. A loose boot won't ever get more snug. So 10 inches, they're saying they're between a double E and an F. So that tells me they are, okay, so they're about a size 6.5 based on that measurement. Or actually, no, so that tells me they're about a size 7.5 based on that measurement. So yeah, 7.5 double E is a 9 7/8. 7.5 F is a 10 1/8. Again, personal preference. If these are boots you're going to be working in, wearing a lot, putting a lot of hours in, I'd say go with the 9 7/8. Snug will always break in. too loose, won't ever tighten up. So it would be my recommendation is to go with the double E over the F because one of your feet falls right into that double E size and the other is just a little wider. Second question, should you be worried that your width measurement is way off between the Nix table and the Brannock device? No, you shouldn't. So we recommend using Brannock for size. Do not recommend using Brannock for width at all. It does not account for circumference. You know, when we ask for width measurement, we tell you to use a tailor's tape around the circumference of your foot. The Brannock device is simply measuring the width straight across. So it doesn't account for a lot of things. There are people with very wide, flat feet. There are people with narrow, high volume feet, and it doesn't account for a lot of that. I think Brannock device says I'm like a C width, which I have one pair of boots in a C width. They were a worn pair that I got, took quite a bit of break-in. I would not ever want to buy that width again because it's frankly too tight for me. But yeah, so don't be worried about that. We use a very different measuring system for width than the Brannock device does. That's why there's some variance there. I personally don't trust the Brannock width measurements at all. So yeah, sounds like double E should work great for you. That would be my recommendation. All right, so that is all the questions we have for today. I hope this helps a little bit. Hopefully some of these questions are similar to some questions you might have when you're trying to determine your size, and that this kind of helps answer this for you. Again, if you're a first-time customer and you're coming here looking for sizing advice, highly, highly recommend going to the quick ship section. You'll get your boots much faster. You'll get your exchange quicker than you would get your original pair if you're ordering like an MTO boot. There's a lot of options. We have a lot of leathers. We have heritage boots. We have work boots. We have fire boots. Lots of different styles. It's changing all the time, so there's new options all the time. Definitely check out the quick ship section. All right. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.